Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel today. I'm your host Sanj, and in this video I've got something truly exciting for you guys. I'm super excited to bring this to you because I wanted to build something similar like this. It took me a while actually to kind of build it all together, all the steps, because this is an army of agents, okay? You can literally do anything you can conceive with agents because these are AI powered machines. They're like robots, right? And when you plug it into something like Apify, which is what I've done in this automation, I'll show you exactly how all this comes together. You can literally unlock the world because you can scrape anything. You can utilize the scrape data with the AI agents, and the AI agents can do everything. And what I love about this automation is that I've delegated most of it to the AI agent, right? I'm asking the agent, in your experience, in your, what is your recommendation? You come back with me, right? Like, this is the input. I'm telling you what I want. You go away, think about it, come back. If you need more information, you will ask me, right? And this is a truly game-changing automation or sets of automation because you can sell this for crazy amounts of money, right? If you are building an AI agency, if you are selling this as a service to B2B clients, then this is going to be a game changer for you, but it's also going to be a game changer for them. Okay, so I'm super excited to bring this to you, and without any further ado, let's just dive right in and build this thing. So as you can imagine, for a system like this, there are a lot of moving parts because I'm calling, I think, 9 automations. Okay, so there are going to be workflows and sub workflows. So the requirements for an agent army like this, the first thing is obviously we need to build workflows and sub workflows. And if you're new to N8N, this can be a little bit daunting in the beginning because, like I said, there are a lot of moving parts, right? But if you break it down, and I'll obviously break it down in step by step, you'll see that it's not really that hard. As long as you've got everything labeled, you understand what each parent automation is calling in terms of the subflows, then you'll understand it better, easier, and it'll be, you'll be building these automations much quicker. Okay. The second thing we need is a Tavily AI API key, and Tavily is free. I think they give you like 1,000 credits or something like that. And basically, what you can do is you can use Tavily AI to search for keywords or queries. Okay, and when you tie that into an agent, an AI agent, right, it is basically unlocking a superpower because with 2 AI systems like this, there's not much that you have to expand upon, right? So when you are typing, and I'll show you this with a demo at the end of this video, when you are inputting data into the chat nodes, right, you're not gonna require that much information, right? And it's very intuitive. Like, for example, if it doesn't know, or if there's some ambiguity in the inputs that you've entered into the system, the AI agents will come back and it will ask more details or probe, and then it will come back with a Tavily search that has basically answered everything and it's retrieved the information that you require. Okay. The third step we need is Apify. So basically, you should know by now, Apify is my favorite scraper on the planet. I absolutely love it. I actually pay for it. And what I'm going to be using with Apify is I want to scrape LinkedIn, Instagram, and some other bits and pieces. Okay. And for this task, Apify is the best. Okay, and I'll obviously show you how to set that up. And the last thing you need is a language model like OpenAI's ChatGPT. That's what I use because I already pay for it. I'm a paid plus user, but I also have credits in the account there, and it's very affordable. Okay, but you can do this with a free language model like Meta's Llama. You can access that through OpenRouter, and I do have a previous video on that and it shows you exactly how to do that. Okay, but for this demonstration, I'm going to go ahead and use OpenAI's ChatGPT. Okay, so the first agent we have is the researcher agent, and the way this works is obviously there's a chat, which is the input, so you just type in whatever you want, and then there's an AI agent. Okay, so basically the AI agent is connected to a chat trigger, and then we have a chat input because it's coming from the first node, which is a chat, and then there's a system message. Okay, so whenever you work with AI agents, it's always a good idea to give it some context. Okay, because they're not, although they are very intelligent, right? They need some guidance, they need some guardrails to tell it what to do, right? But you only need to tell this once because it's constantly learning. It will understand based on your previous inputs. Okay, so the role is to basically act as a dedicated research manager, responsible for directing my requests to the most relevant expert in your network of the 3 specialized agents. Okay, so the first one is the social media insights agent, second one is a business research analyst, and the third one is a market trends specialist. Okay, and these are all sub workflows that I'll be running in conjunction with this. Okay, so your job is to evaluate each request that I give you and assign it to the appropriate agent or multiple. Okay, so you can use either one or you can use all 3 of these if needed. If anything is unclear, don't assume. This is very important, right? Because I want it to come back to me. I don't want it to assume that whatever I've inputted it is correct, right? Like it could give me guidance, it could give me recommendations, it could help me obtain information better, right? And we should be doing this. This is exactly how we should be using AI, right? We should be using it to extend and expand on our capabilities, right? I think that's what most people are not understanding when it comes to AI. They see it as a threat, and it is a threat, right? Like I'm not gonna lie here, sit here and lie to you that it's not a threat. It absolutely is, but the way I see it is, what, if AI is coming for me, I'm gonna use AI to kind of strike back, right? So I want to make sure that I have the agents trained and they give me the best possible outputs, okay? So they're not just yes men, right? These agents aren't just yes men. They're gonna come back to me and they're gonna clarify things if it's not clear, okay? And obviously we'll ask for more details before proceeding, okay? So that's it there for the AI agent. And to get this agent, you just go into the plus sign here and just type in AI agent, okay? And this is the node here. That's basically this one here, okay? So the first you want to connect up is a chat model. And like I said, I'm using the OpenAI chat model. Just connect it up to the chat model here. And for this, I'm using Forum Mini because it's doing a decent job, right? And Forum Mini, it's like ridiculously cheap to get started with. But again, like I said, you can do this with a free language model. Okay, the next thing you want to add is a simple memory node, and this is basically for the context window. Okay, so something like a 5 in here will give you about 10 conversations, and that's just basically to give it a context window in the sense that the AI understands the kind of the way the conversation is going, okay? Because it has access to previous conversations within that context window, right? And so I've just set it to 5, but if you wanted to, you can test it out with different numbers in here. Just give it a try, but the default is 5, okay? Then the next two nodes here are going to be the market research, company research, and the social media research agents, okay? So let's just break it down. The first one is the market research agent, and what this does is this is going to call a subflow called the market research agent, okay? And basically the inputs that I have, and I've actually set this in the subflow, and I'll show you how to do that. Basically a variable called query, okay? And this is basically a pass the query that whatever I ask it inside of this automation will be sent over to the market research agent, okay? And I've asked the model to define it, basically based on the conversation I'm having inside the chat model. And again, I'll show you this at the end of the video, okay? And I'll obviously demo it. So to bring up one of these nodes, you just need to click on tools, and then it's this one here where it says call an end-to-end workflow tool, okay? The next one is going to be the company research agent, and so this one is going to call a subflow called the company research agent. Again, it's got a query field that I've assigned it, which is a variable, and it's going to be passed from whatever I type into this automation over to the subflow. And again, I've asked it to dynamically define it automatically even by the model, okay? To do that, you just got to select, it'll be by default it's set to from AI as the function, but you can just click on these. I'm not even sure what they are. I think they're stars, and just this will automatically define it, okay? By the model, okay? And the last one is going to be the social media agent, research agent, and for this is going to call the social media scraper, which is a subflow. Again, the query, I've assigned it inside of this subflow as a variable, and it's going to be defined automatically by the model, okay? So this is what the first workflow looks like. Let's just jump into the next one, which is the market research agent. Okay, so the first workflow, the sub workflow, is going to be the market research agent, okay? And the first node that you want to trigger is you want to execute it when triggered by another workflow, okay? And that's the most important thing. Just search for execute. I'll show you, but I can't inside of the nodes panel here because you can only have one of these running out at any time, okay? But the most important trigger for you to understand is that it will execute when it will be executed by another workflow, okay? Click inside of here, and then you want to define some fields below. And for this example, I've defined a variable called query, okay? And it's a string. Now you can call it whatever you want, it doesn't really matter. Just remember that the type has to be string. Okay, and then the next node you want to attach is the AI agent. So you should be very familiar with this one. I use it quite a lot in my videos. But again, just go over here, just do a search for AI agent, and it will pop up. The first thing you want to do is add a language model. So for this, I've just added ChatGPT Forum Mini, which is absolutely fine. Gives me a great output. And then if I go inside of the AI agent, the the source for the prompt is going to be defined below because we're not connected to a chat trigger, okay? So make sure you define it, and then the variable is going to be the JSON query, so whatever has been passed through the first node, okay? Then I've got added a system message because I need to tell the AI agent what we're going to do, okay? So the role is you are a research agent specializing in market analysis using a suite of tools. When given a request, your job is to perform market research by leveraging these tools effectively, okay? Then there's a bit more blurb here, but the example I've given it is if a user asks, I want to research AI SaaS, the AI SaaS market and find some opportunities, you should start by searching Google for relevant forums like Reddit, school discussions, news articles, etc. Then use the scrape URL tool to extract insights from those sources, okay? Be mindful of today's date, which is now. So this is just a variable to tell it that this is today's date, okay? And then the next three tools here, the first one is search keywords. So basically what this is going to use a Tavly search, okay? This is the base URL, which is api.tavly.com. The endpoint I'm using for this is search. This is the only one I'm using for this entire automation, even including sub automations. The method is always post, right? And then for the headers, you want to add, use the fields below. And the first header parameter is going to be authorization. The second one is going to be the value provided below. And then you want to add bearer and then your API key, okay? Space API key. And I'll show you how to get that in a sec. And then the next thing you want to add, another parameter you want to add is the content type, okay? This one is using the fields below. And then for this is just application JSON, okay? And just bear in mind of the capitalization here and the lack of capitalization here because that's important. And then the last thing you want to do is send body. So you want to define the JSON. And then this is basically the JSON that we require inside of Tavly. This is the way they basically require the import if you're going to trigger it through their API, okay? This is not something that I've created. So have a look at that. There is a lot of support inside of Tavly's documentation. So if you head over to Tavly's website, go to the API documentation, it'll tell you exactly what you need to do, what you need, what kind of JSON you need in the body, etc. Okay. Before I move on, this is a HTTP request node. So if I go inside of here, just bring this up, HTTP request, and that's what will pull this. And then the last thing you want is the API key. Okay, so to get that, head over to Tavly. They actually give you very generous testing, right? They give you 1,000 credits. I mean, I've used this a couple of times already, and it's only used 5 credits. So the free plan is amazing. Okay, so head over to overview, and then there's a default API key. Okay, you can also create some yourself, but I've just used the default one here. Just copy and paste this API using this button here, and then just paste it where it says bearer space, and then paste that there. Okay, that's all you need to do. The next node is going to be an RSS read. So this is a new node that I'm just testing now. And basically what this does is if I just go inside of here, it basically reads data from an RSS feed. So if you're not familiar, RSS feeds used to be very popular back in the day, especially if you had like blogs, or I think Reddit still implements it. And basically all it means is that whenever there's new information, like imagine it's a blog post or like a website that has a blog post on there, and they upload or post a new blog, right? Then you can actually send this information out through RSS, and anybody who's signed up to your RSS can basically get a notification, and then that information will pull through using like an RSS editor, okay? So all this does is just reads data from an RSS feed. And then for this, I've asked it to, because I'm connected to an AI agent, I can use the AI's capabilities to basically define automatically by the model. I'll just let it do that, right? Whatever information is available through the RSS feed, you define that, you grab the URL, etc. Okay, and wherever you find the URL, wherever it's on a website or blog or Reddit or wherever, you define that yourself. Okay, and I'm kind of delegating that because I'm using the AI's brain on this. Okay, and then the last workflow is going to be the sub workflow. So this is just a scrape URL, and then I'm calling a workflow called URL scrape agent. Okay, and there's 2 variables that I've been defining there. The first one's query, the second one's URL, because I need both of these to basically scrape the URL, and I'll show you exactly what that looks like when I go inside of the scrape URL sub workflow. Okay, the next sub workflow is the company research agent, and again, this is going to be executed by one of these nodes here, which is when triggered when executed by another workflow. Okay, so if I go inside of here, you can see that I've defined some more import data here, and again, it's another variable called query, which is a string, okay? And then you want another AI agent here. So let's look inside of here. Again, it's going to be very similar to the last one, which is defined below because we're not using a chat trigger. And then for the prompt, we're just going to take whatever's passed through the query, okay, from the previous node. And then for the actual prompt inside of the AI agent, the role is you can find a company's website and reviews, okay? You will receive an input containing a company name and what the user wants to do. Okay, so again, this is what passed through the query. And your job is to identify the correct tool based on the input and use the company name accordingly. For example, if I want to find Tesla's reviews, you would use the review scraper tool and input the word Tesla, just to give it kind of an example, right? In some context. And then again, we always need a language model if we're going to use an AI agent, and I'm just using Fora Mini for this, which is perfectly fine. And then there's two nodes here. The first one is find reviews, which is a sub workflow. So I'll go into that next. It's called it reviews, and it calls a sub workflow called review scraper, okay? And there's a variable inside of there called company name. And again, I've asked it to just define it automatically by the AI model, okay? The same is true for websites. So let's just have a look in there. The name is website. This doesn't really matter. You can just give it a name. From the list, this is now you're going to use the company scraper sub workflow. And again, the company name variable is going to be defined by the model, okay? So let's head over into these two sub workflows and show you exactly what they do. So here's the reviews scraper sub workflow. It's going to be triggered by this node here when executed by another workflow. And the input is going to be company name, which is what I've defined it as, okay? And then the type is string. That's the most important thing here. The next node is a HTTP request node. And so that's pretty straightforward. I've used it many times on this video, on this channel. So it's this one here. And then if I go inside of here, what you can see is that the method is post. The URL is the search endpoint. Okay, this is the one that I'm going to use for the entire duration of this video. Then you want to toggle send headers on using the fields below because we're going to define them. And then the first header is going to be content-type, and pay attention to the capitalization. And then the value is application JSON. Okay, so this is information that Tably is telling us that we have to send back to them. Okay, it's like a handshake, like a security handshake. And then the next header is going to be authorization. Pay attention to the spelling. It's the American spelling of authorization. And then the value is bearer dash and then your API key from Tably. Okay. Then you want to toggle send body. The content type is JSON. The specified body is also JSON. And then this is just a few things that I'm sending information from n8n to Tably to basically trigger the automation to trigger the next part of it, right, using the API. Okay, so the most important thing is that it's going to get the company name from the when executed by another workflow. So that's the value that's been passed. And then we're going to use trust pilots, right? That's all that's saying in there. And then there's a few bits and pieces here. Max results is 1, and I'm just doing that because for the sake of this video. But you can obviously change the max results and the time, the days, and the date range and all that kind of stuff, right? I've just kept it simple because I'm obviously running a live video, and I don't want it to take too long. Okay. Then once you've scraped the data, you need to get the details. Okay. So this is another HTTP request node, very straightforward. It's just a get method because we don't need any headers or bodies because the information is already inside of n8n. Okay. Then the URL is just going to be the results 0.url, which is the value from the previous node. Okay, like I said, there's no headers or bodies that we need here. Okay, then the information is in HTML format. So what I need to do is I need to convert it from HTML to Markdown. So Markdown is just much more readable. It's kind of human friendly, but more importantly, it's easy to work with when it comes to AI. Okay, and the value is just going to be JSON dash data or .data, which is from the previous node. It's just the output from this node here. To bring up the Markdown node, you just want to type Markdown in the node panel here. And just bear in mind, it's HTML to Markdown because there is the other way as well, okay? And then the destination key is also data, which is coming from the get details node, okay? And then the last node is going to be just OpenAI, which is this one here, okay? We don't need to define, we don't need to attach anything inside, to it like a language model because this is just a model, an OpenAI model node itself, okay? So it's all built in here. You can see I'm connected to my OpenAI account. And The operation is messaging model. I'm just using Forum Mini for this because it's completely fine. There's a user all here. And basically I want the prompt is, I want you to look through this scraped Trustpilot data and output a summary of the reviews that have been scraped. Output just a summary, no explanation. And then it's just getting data from the previous node, okay? And then just make sure that you simplify the output, okay? And then you can rename it and save it. And yeah, that's it. That's it for the review scraper. Similar to the review scraper, I'm now inside of the company scraper, okay? So it's more or less identical, to be honest with you. The node here is the same node, and then I'm creating a variable called company name, which is a string, and then we're going to use that to basically scrape the company details using Tavily, okay? So again, it's set up exactly the same way as before, right? But now we're just going to change a little bit of the information here, okay? So basically now what we're going to do is we're going to get the company name here, and we're going to find the main site, okay? And this is just JSON that's needed to basically trigger the Tavily API from NA10, okay? And then just make sure that you test this, okay? Just to make sure. And obviously I showed you earlier how to get the API key. So at any point, if you are stuck with APIs, just go to the platform. So in this case, it'll be Tavily. Go to the API documentation because it's all there. They're usually quite useful and makes sense for layman in layman terms for most people. Okay, so have a look at that. Then once we have the scraped information, we need to get the details. So this is another HTTP request node. The method is get. We're just gonna get the results from the previous node. That's about it. Okay, we don't need any headers or any body because the information is already inside of NA10. We don't need to authorize anything. Okay, and then again, we're gonna use a HTML to Markdown node. Okay, because the output is going to be HTML, and so the HTML is the data that's been pulled over from the previous node, and then destination key is just data. Okay, and then the last node is going to be the OpenAI node. Okay, so if I go inside of here, connect it to your credentials, the resources text, your messaging model. Forum Mini is completely fine for this. Let me just show you the user prompt here. So review the following scraped website data and generate a concise summary of the business the site belongs to. Only return the summary, no additional explanation. So very, very straightforward. Just take the raw data. Tell me a little bit about this company, right? And obviously this all information will be sent back to you inside the chat window at the top level, okay? And then just make sure that the simplify output is toggled on. And that's it for the company scraper. The next scraper I want to show you is the social media scraper, okay? So this again is triggered by a node when it's executed by another workflow. If I just click inside of here, it's got another defined variable called query, and this is a string. Then what you want to do is you want to basically create another AI agent node and then just connect it up to a language model. You always have to connect it up to a chat model. If I go inside of here, you'll see that I'm defining it below because I'm taking the query from the previous node. And then this is going to be the actual prompt, okay? The system prompt. So your role is you specialize in summarizing LinkedIn and Instagram profiles, right? Task, you'll be given an input containing the name of a company or individual along with the platform to search. Your job is to extract only the relevant name and use the appropriate tool for that platform. For example, if the input is I want to find Tesla's LinkedIn, you would use the LinkedIn scraper tool and input just the word Tesla. So this is just an example, right? I'm not asking it, I haven't hard coded Tesla or anything like that, right? And so yeah, that's about it for this, okay? And then you can see that I've got two kind of nodes here that will trigger subflows, okay? So the first one is scrape LinkedIn. So if I just go inside of here, it's just called LinkedIn. And then I'm actually triggering another workflow called the LinkedIn scraper agent, okay? And this has another input, which is just query as defined by the LinkedIn scraper agent, okay? And the last one is scrape Instagram. So again, it's very similar to LinkedIn. This one's going to call a subflow called Instagram scraper. It's got an input, which is query, and it's defined automatically by the model, as you can see here, okay? And I've just called it Instagram. You can call it whatever you want, doesn't really matter. And that's it for this subflow. So from the social media agent, if the LinkedIn scraper agent is triggered, this is the sub workflow, okay? So again, it's going to use this node here, and I've defined a variable called query. Then we're going to get the LinkedIn details. Okay, so this is going to be another Tably search. It's another post method. The headers are exactly the same as before. The body is just a little bit different. Okay, so I'm going to click inside of here just to show you that the query is going to be whatever the query is pulled in from the previous node. Okay, I just made this little case just so that there's no confusion. And it's going to basically get the LinkedIn's whatever the search query is, the keyword is going to get the LinkedIn profile for that. So effectively, it's just doing like a Google search, but we're doing it through the API and we're using AI and obviously automations. Okay, everything else I've just kept it as it is, just one result because I'm recording a live video. Don't want it to take too long. Okay, and just rename that to get LinkedIn or something similar. Okay, then the next agent I've got here is a URL agent. Okay, so this is whatever this pulls back, whatever information has been kind of grabbed from Tably, I want it to basically go through the weeds and find what I need, okay, which is the URL, which is the LinkedIn URL. Okay, so this is an OpenAI ChatGPT node. I'm using 4.1 mini for this because I need something a bit better than 4.0 mini. Okay, 4.0 mini is great for most kind of practical uses, but this is a very specific task where I needed to find the LinkedIn URL. Okay, so for this, I've created a user role. If I open this up, you'll see that the prompt says search through this Google search data. So it's obviously going to be voluminous data, right? It could be big or small. It depends on whatever the search inputs are. And identify the URL that is most likely a valid LinkedIn profile. Okay, it must be a profile URL. Only output the URL and nothing else. And then the data is going to be the results from the previous node, from the get LinkedIn node. Okay, and that's about it. Just make sure simplify output is checked. So that's the first agent. The second thing we're going to do now is once we have the URL, we can scrape it. Okay. So for this, this is a HTTP node. It's a post, and I'm going to show you which API scraper I actually use and how you can get this URL. Okay. Then for the body, and I'll show you exactly how to set this up as well. Okay. So the body is going to be JSON. The specified body is also JSON, and then this code here comes from the scraper inside the API. And I'll show you exactly which one that is. So this one's Dev Fusion. So let's head over to API and let me just see which one it is. So it's this one here, the mass LinkedIn profile scraper with email, no cookies. If I click inside of here, it's by Dev Fusion. Okay, and basically you don't need to worry about any of this, right? All you gotta do is just have a LinkedIn search query in there. It doesn't have to be your exact query, right? And then what you wanna do is click over to the JSON tab here, and then you want to grab this code. Okay, that's the code that goes inside of here, right? So the profile URLs, and then we're gonna make this dynamic, right? So we're gonna get the message content from the previous node, okay, which is the URL, okay, from one of the previous nodes. And to get the URL for the actual API scraper, let's head over back to API, and then what you want to do is, if you are using this, or it doesn't really matter which scraper you're using, you want to head over to API, click on API endpoints, and then scroll down to where it says run actor synchronously and get dataset items. It has to be this one, okay, because you can run the actor, which is this one, but you're not going to get the data. It's not going to pull the data through, okay, so you have to get the dataset items. And then what you want to do is just copy this string, head back over here, and then just paste it here. That's exactly what this has done, okay? And then once that's done, there's another OpenAI module. So this time, now once we have the URL, we've scraped the URL, now I want the agent to basically summarize it for me. Okay, so again, it's another OpenAI module. It's using 4.1 mini because it's better for this task. And then if I open this up, it will be summarize the LinkedIn profile of a person or company. You'll receive a markdown data from their scraped LinkedIn profile, highlight all key data points, and provide an overall summary of the company, okay? So the name is going to be company_name, and description and employees, followers, founded, address, etc., etc. And this is all coming from the previous node, okay? From the scraped API scraper. It's just it's the values that they are pulling over, okay? And then just rename that and then call it whatever you want, okay? And then obviously just make sure you simplify the output. So that's the LinkedIn scraper. Now let's discuss the Instagram scraper, which is more or less the same as this, but obviously it's doing the same now for Instagram. like the LinkedIn scraper, the Instagram scraper is more or less the same. So trigger is going to be executed by another workflow. It's got a query string here as defined by me. And then now we're going to get to the Instagram. We're going to find the Instagram profile. Okay, so again, we're going to use a Tably search for this, and it's set up exactly the same way. Okay, but just head over to the JSON here. Just going to lowercase this just to keep it all consistent. And then basically what we're asking Tably to do is to do a search for the Instagram profile URL. Okay, so imagine that this is the string that's been put into a Google search. That's all we're doing. But the difference here is that we are actually just doing it through AI and automation. Okay, and that's all you need to do for that, which is a HTTP request node. Okay, then the next node again is going to be an OpenAI ChatGPT node, set up exactly the same. I'm just going to show you the user prompt here. So search through this Google search data and identify the URL that is most likely a valid Instagram profile. So again, similar to the LinkedIn profile, we're going to try and find an Instagram profile, and we're going to do it automated using AI. It must be a profile URL, only output the URL and nothing else. So the data is going to be from the previous node, which is this results.url. Okay, so I'm using AI to do this for me. And then similar to the LinkedIn workflow, now that I've got the URL, I can scrape it. Okay, so if I go inside of here, we are now going to use a scraper inside of Apify. I'll show you which one I use. So if I head over to Apify, just come out of this, go into Actors, it's this one here. Okay, it's the Instagram scraper by Apify. Super affordable. It's only $2.30 for 1,000 results. And again, if I go back to this, if you want to grab the URL, you just go to the API drop down here, go to API endpoints, scroll down to where it says run actor synchronously and get dataset items. Just copy this and then paste it here. Okay, that's all I've done. And then for the body, if you toggle this on, right, you want to basically select JSON for the content type, specify body using JSON, and then if you open this up, this code is coming from the actor itself. Okay, I'll show you exactly how to set that up. So just put in a URL for now, doesn't really matter what it is. Just go back to the input, just put in any, doesn't really matter. You can even use the default one. And then you just tell it what you want to scrape. Okay, so for this, I've just set it to posts, but you've got a whole bunch of options here. And the max results per URL is 10. I mean, I've just set it as 10 because I'm running a video live, so I don't want it to take too long. And then you head over to the JSON tab, okay? And then this is basically the same code that you see inside of this, okay? And so you can see the limit is 10. I've selected posts, and everything else is just on or off as per whatever the scraper requires. And we need this because we're running the scraper from through API from our automation. Okay, it's not a manual process. Okay, and yeah, that's pretty much it. That's all you need to do. Okay, so that's it there. And then the last thing you want to do is bring up another OpenAI module. Again, I'm going to use 4.mini for this, 4.1 even. And then the user prompt is going to be go through the scraped Instagram profile data and generate a summary of the key points along with a general overview. So I've got the URL, I've got the username, and I've got the followers, okay? And that's whatever's been pulled through the scraped Instagram node, okay? And that's it for the Instagram scraper. And the last one I'll show you now is going to be the URL scraper. So the final sub-automation is going to be the URL scraper agent, and this has a when executed by another workflow node. But this time I've basically configured two variables. Okay, so the first one's query and the second one is URL. And then the next node is going to be a HTTP request node. Okay, and for this we just want to grab the URL from the previous node. Okay, it should be passed, right? And then from there we want to basically get the data from the URL, and then we want to convert the HTML, the raw data, into Markdown. And then for this we're going to use the data from the previous node, and the destination key is also data. Okay, and then the last node is an OpenAI ChatGPT node, and then basically I've just connected it up to 4.1 mini again because I wanted to give me a summary of whatever it's extracted, right? So this is going to be what your query is. Your task is to extract key insights from scraped website data, analyze the provided web data to identify important information, and generate a concise summary of your findings. So basically everything from the query and the scraped data from the previous get URL node. Okay. And then make sure you simplify the output. The role is user, and that's it. Okay, so next what I'm going to do is I'm going to test the entire flow and show you exactly what the outputs look like. Okay, so let's quickly test this puppy. I'm going to open up the chat. I've got a quick prompt here or message that I typed out earlier. So I want to buy a Tesla Model S. Do some company research and tell me about the market trends. So let's just run that. Now you're going to see the agent. It's going through all the various tools and tool sets, right? So it's accessed the market research agent as you would expect it to, and the company research agent, right? Because that's kind of tied into what I'm asking it. Okay, it hasn't really used the social media agent because I'm not asking it for any social media type questions, right? So let's just wait for this to finish. Let's just see what it comes back with, and then we can prompt it some more. We can ask some follow-up questions. We can trigger the social media agent as well and see how all that works. Okay, so again, this is all dependent on the speed, will be dependent on the types of language models that you're using. If you obviously are using the latest language models, generally are faster, better quality, but they sometimes take longer to deliver. So this one's done. Let's just see what it came up with. Okay, so yeah, here you go. Tesla Inc. overview is an American electric vehicle manufacturer. It's got a summary, overall rating, which I think that's probably to do with all the backlash with Doge, right? 1.5 out of 5. I don't believe that's normal in any other year apart from kind of post-Trump, right? So here's some feedback as well, what customers are saying, and then some market trends. So this is information that the agents have gone out, right? Like it's gone out to the big wide world, and it's kind of got it back for me, right? And then it's done it through this chat here. Okay, so it's got market trends, and then it's got some relevant sources for further research if you want to do some further research. Let's just ask it, what is social media saying about Tesla? Okay, so now it's gonna ask the social media research agent, right? Because it doesn't need these two, because I'm not asking it for that. It's gonna run the social media agent, which means that it's gonna scrape LinkedIn and or Instagram, and I'll leave it up to the agent, right? It's up to the agent to decide what kind of information I need, right, based on my inputs, but also what tool sets is it going to use to then go out there and find that information for me, right? And that's what I love about AI agents, right? The fact that I can delegate a lot of this over to them. I don't need to kind of micromanage tools, self-flows, that kind of stuff. And I think this is the awesome power of agents, right? So this is done. Let's have a look at what it brought up with. So social media insights, Instagram profile, it's got it there. It's got approximately 9.5 million followers. Tells you the focus, key summary, brand identity, content themes, engagement, visual style, community connection, general overview. And again, this has all been plugged into my AI agents, right? Because remember at the start of the video, I gave it some inputs, right? I gave it some system prompts. So yeah, that's kind of pretty compelling, right? Like this is a great tool in your armory, right? If you are building an AI agency, like an automation agency, if you want to sell this as a productized service, this is perfect, right? Because you can build an army of these. I mean, I've just showed you, I think, 9 automations in total, but you could build this out to like 50, 100, right? You could do anything. You can scrape Reddit, you could scrape any social media platform, you can scrape, imagine real estate agents that want this. I mean, if you plug NA10 into Amplify, it literally unlocks the world in terms of what you can scrape. Okay, so hopefully you get a glimpse of the power of a system like this that uses an army of agents. And thank you very much if you lasted this long watching this video. Your support means the world to me. Please leave me some comments, like this video if you enjoy the content, and most importantly, please subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you on the next video. Thanks again and take care.